Okay, glad to have everybody here this morning. Let's find a seat so we get quiet and everybody can hear. We got some important announcements to make this morning.
Yes, dear.
We have a few birthdays, and but first I'd like to welcome you and again thank the class for being at Tom Smith's funeral yesterday. I think we had 39 or 40 from our class that was there, and Nick did a wonderful job at the funeral yesterday, I thought, and so I just wanted to thank you for that. I know it meant a lot to Linda. Linda's our secretary, the ones that don't know, and her husband passed away, so
I don't think so.
anyway, again, thank you for being here, and we do have some visitors with us, and right up here, just about on the front row, is Mike and Connie McQuinn. Did I get that right?
Yeah. There you go.
This class lets me know when I don't do something right, I'll tell you. So that was easy because y'all didn't know their names either.
Just had to check with them.
Yeah, that's right.
Richard.
Well, thank y'all for being with us, and look forward for y'all coming back. Also, we got some visitors back here, and I know they're missionaries, but I can't remember your names, and I didn't get a chance to get back and speak to. Give us your name.
Paul and Ravina Wolf. We just got back from Papua New Guinea.
Thank you for being here.
They were here once before, had the
Yeah.
Bible made out of plastic.
Yeah, you've been here before, and we
Yes,
appreciate
actually,
that.
we were here last year just when we got the Bibles printed, and we got to New Guinea. We had the New Testament dedication service and handed out the Bibles. It was just an awesome experience. The people got the Bible for the very first time.
Thank you for telling us
Stick
that.
your head in there, John. Stick your head.
Give me your money.
Next, we have a couple of birthdays. And Steve, whose birthday is it? 24th. Where's Steve?
You take a seat.
You better remember, it's Jimmy's birthday, your wife.
Somebody I've known over half a century.
Okay.
Think you'll remember.
Okay, happy birthday, Jimmy, on the 24th. And also Pete Lockwood. Where's Pete this morning? He's not here. This is on the 28th, so give Pete a call and let him know that you know that it's his birthday. And there's I think June knows more about this than I do. Duchess Rand will be performing on Tuesday night here, the 25th, at Heritage Hall across the street.
The towers.
Across
the way.
Across the way.
The pond.
At 6 to 7:30. And don't miss it. So, music for the night. And June, she told me that you knew all about this. You want to say anything about it?
No, that's it. And you've never heard her play the piano, and you can just, she'll ask for a request, and she'll play it.
And it's free.
Just wonderful if you've never heard her, and if you have, I'm sure you'll want to go back.
Okay. So remember, that's this Tuesday night, 25th, 6 to 7:30.
She's a very gifted.
Heritage Hall.
Very gifted.
Really good. Do we have any other announcements to make this morning?
May I make one?
Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
No, I'm just going to stand right here. As you know, the women's retreat is September the 15th to the 17th at Ridgecrest. And we haven't had a whole lot of women to sign up, per se, in our age group. We have a bus, and we don't have a large number signed up to ride the bus. There are scholarships available. If you'd like a scholarship, call Courtney's office at the church and let her know. I've heard of several comments that, they might need a little bit of help. So if you need a scholarship, please call Courtney's office or call the church and let them know that you'd like to have a scholarship so you can go. It's going to be a wonderful weekend. And just please put it on your calendar and plan to join everybody that weekend, because it's the way it's such a spiritual weekend we have planned, and a fun time, and you get to know other women that you normally would not see. So just put it on your calendar and plan to go if you possibly can, September the 15th through the 17th. And if you need a scholarship, just make it known, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Madge. Any other announcements?
What about the social in August?
June, what about the social?
Okay. I'm not sure we'll have one in August. You know, we've had trouble lately getting 40 together for the meal here, so I can ask for a show of hands if you'd like to meet in August, the second Thursday for dinner here at the church. Could I see a show of hands, those that would be coming, so I can kind of count? Okay.
Second Tuesday.
Second Thursday.
What day would that be on?
20. The second Thursday in August.
Second Thursday in
I'm
August?
not sure.
Okay.
Let's not have one in August.
It's gonna be so hot in August.
That's about half of what I would need, so,
Yeah.
we'll be meeting at the park again in September. So want to just skip August then, and we'll meet in,
Yeah, well, I guess we need to, because it's so hot in August, and we're gonna have the party at the park in September anyway, so we don't wanna have it out there. And, so, it's okay with everybody, then we'll just skip August and, have the big party out at the, in September out at the park,
Hope
okay?
it don't get no hotter in August than it was in July.
Yeah, I know, it's been terrible. I was gonna, Bernie wasn't gonna be here this morning, and I was gonna say Bernie's sort of under the water.
Under the water.
Because he went scuba diving, and, but he did make it back safely, so glad you're back, Bernie. And,
Saw 30 sharks.
next, 30 sharks.
One went between my fins.
Oh, wow.
Woohoo!
You'll have to show us some
Where were
adventure
you?
videos sometime. I've been trying to get Richard Smith to come up and teach or do something, and he just won't come up, but today he volunteered to come up. He's gonna really teach, today and tell us all about everything.
Senior or junior?
I made a mistake. I saw him squirming back there, so. No, this is his son, Richard Smith Jr., and he's going to be with us this morning and conduct a class this morning. And Richard, we're glad to have you with us, but before you come up, I think it's only fitting that your mother come up and introduce you this morning. If she doesn't take up all your time, then we'll give you a lot of time. So thank you for being here, Richard.
Okay, now I have the floor. I was trying to think of a way really to introduce him, and I have decided that Richard is our adopted son, because we're simply not old enough to be his parents. But May is sitting right here on the front row, so I have to correct that because she remembers when Richard was born. Right? So anyway, he is our firstborn. He is a charter member of this church. He came from First Church when we came. He went to Rock Hill High, he went to Winthrop, and he went to Reformed Theological Seminary in Jackson, Mississippi. And this church has always been behind him. When he was in seminary, he got scholarships, and so we are just very happy that he's here for one night. We see him, since they've moved to Pennsylvania, we are a good stopping point when they go to Atlanta. So we have visitors frequently, but it's good to see him and have them. And with that, I'll let him take the podium.
Okay. I'd like to thank you for a chance to come here and share a little bit about what we do at Penn State University with RUF. Just to tell you how I got there, I graduated RTS in 1987 and was in a church in the Atlanta area for 9 years. I was the associate pastor at a church in Fayetteville, Georgia, and then got sent off to the outer reaches in southern Alabama, and was there for 4 years, and then for 15 years I was in Albany, Georgia, where I was the senior pastor of the church there. While we were in Albany, one of the things that I really wanted our church to be able to do is to try to have a ministry of its own. And sometimes when you have a smaller church, it's hard to do. One day I noticed we lived near a college there called Darden State College, had about 6,000 students. And I noticed that there were a number of internationals running around the school there. And I have a friend named Al LaCour, who used to be the pastor at Filbert years and years ago. And he was doing international work at Georgia Tech. And I called Al up and I said, if I want to do this, how do I do this? And he told me how, and I walked on campus, walked up to the lady in charge of international students, and said, listen, my church would like to help you with your international students. And she looked at me and she started crying. And she said, you're the first one that's ever asked that. And so we started, first of all, with a Thanksgiving meal at my home for international students, and one student showed up. And he was a Muslim from the small country of Gambia in Africa. And the next year we had 42. Wow. And so from that point, our church became known as the church that worked with international students. A few years later, my friend Al LaCour had been made the coordinator of RUFI, which is RUF International. It's a ministry, part of the ministry of RUF, that only deals with international students. And he called me up one day and he said, listen, Richard, we've been praying about you. And I said, why? He said, let me put it in baseball terms. It's time for you to leave the minors and come to the majors. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, we want you to try to do this on a large college campus. And I just wasn't ready to leave yet. And I'd been there, my children, I still had a child in high school. And I told him no. Well, about 2 years later, I had my 15th anniversary, and some ministers, you just get the chance, you get the feeling that it's just time to go. And so I left. I didn't leave, but I called Al up and I said, listen, let's talk. And so we talked, and the next thing I knew, we were at their assessment center, and they told us this. They said, listen, y'all have done wonderfully. You and your wife are going to be perfect to do this ministry on campus. But there's one thing we want to tell you. We're not going to take you anywhere north. And I said, okay, that's fine with me. And so a few months later, it looked like we were going to Georgia. We were going to Virginia Tech. But a few months later, he gave me a call. He said, I want you to sit down. I want to talk to you about another campus. And so I sat down, and he began talking about the campus that had the 11th largest group of internationals in America. And it was, and how he'd been praying for it for 8 years. It's interesting. He'd been praying for that campus for 8 years. That's about the time he started praying for us. So we talked, and he would not tell me where the place was. And so we were talking, and finally I said, Al, just stop. Where is this place? And he said, well, let me start off by saying this. He said, it has the most southern-like campus of any northern university. And I said, where is that? And he said, Penn State University. And the only thing I knew about Penn State, I didn't know where it was. I knew it was in Pennsylvania. I knew that their traveling football uniforms were white. And that's the only thing I knew about him at all. But as we began to talk, he began to share with me, and we explored it. And before before long, I just knew this is where God wants to go. I'll never forget calling my mother up and telling her that we're going to move to Pennsylvania. You know what she told me? No, you can't. She did. She said, you can't do that. And then I explained to her that it's the same it's the same distance from Penn State to my house, and that is from where we lived in southern Alabama. It's just the other way. You don't have snow. Okay? But that's what got us up there. That's what got us. I'm going to share with you a picture this morning that I always style off my tops, and I will send this around for everybody to take a look at. I didn't blow this up because y'all are old or anything like that. This is the size. This is the size that I use when I go show people this picture. This
Should have blown it up.
this is a picture, and I'll send it around, of the current serving Iranian cabinet and where they went to school in the United States. The Iranian cabinet has the highest group of U.S. alums of any cabinet in the world. And the interesting thing about this picture, and let me go ahead and just send it around for y'all to take a look at, is that not a single person that came to the United States in that picture were ever invited into an American home while they're here. Not a single one. Most of them came here. Some of them came for as long as 9 years. They got their undergrad, their master's, and their PhDs. A lot of them got their PhDs. You'll notice some of the schools, MIT, no slack schools on that list there. And so one of the things that I do as a campus minister for Reformed University International is that I make sure that never happens. I make sure they get in American homes. I make sure they get welcome to the United States. Penn State has 9,000 international students. We're the 8th largest group of international students in the United States. 2,400 Chinese, 1,000 Indians, 500 Koreans, 400 Saudis, 400 Iranians, 400 Malaysians. And I just got some new information. My sheet that I handed out, I don't think I noted. Oh, well, Penn State has 140 countries represented on campus. So I get a chance every day to minister to the world. Every day. Every day I walk on campus, I see these people, and they're great people. There are 1.2 million international students in the United States. It's the largest. The United States is the largest host country of any country in the world. They come here. They come here to go to school. And they come here to get all sorts of degrees. It's amazing the guys that I know and what they're into. What I do, and there are also 2,000 Muslims at Penn State. And every Muslim that we have is from a country that we can't go into. Okay, that's important. But what do we do? Well, first of all, we have a sort of a three-tier mission statement. First, we welcome international students. And what that means is that we seek to welcome them to the United States and to welcome them as friends. If you want to reach an international, you make a friend. You make a friend, and that's what we do. We do stuff, have people in our homes. I have a story. Our first friend, our first international friend is a guy from China. His name is Jin Yu. And Jin Yu is a great guy. He's getting a master's in electrical engineering. And I met him the first day I was on campus. And as we talked, I said, anything you need, just give me a call. So the next day, I got this text from Jin Yu, and it was a text that had 3 pictures: a hammer and 2 screwdrivers. And I said, what do you need these for? He said, well, I bought a desk, and I can't put it together. And so, well, he said, do you have these? And I said, sure, I will come over and help you put the desk together. And so the next morning I got up and I grabbed my toolbox, but I also grabbed my cordless drill, just in case we need it. So we get over there, And I walk into his bedroom, and there's 18 pieces of desk. Over 300 screws in his desk. So I just got my quarters drill out, put the Phillips head thing in. He just handed me a piece, and I just started drilling. And so if we'd had to do it by hand, it would have taken us all day. And so about halfway through this, he's getting really irritated. And he said, "Oh, Richard," he said, who would make such a desk as this?" I knew who made the desk. So I said, "Jinu, give me your instructions." And he gave me his instructions. I looked at it and I said, "Well, Jinu, here's where it's from." He said, "Oh, it's from China." He goes, "Oh, when I go home, I fix this." So that's some of the things we do. We just recently had a girl from Kazakhstan who is a violinist in the symphony orchestra there stay with us for 4 weeks. She got between, she was having to change apartments and had to be there another 4 weeks, and so she stayed with us. And it was delightful having people like that in your home. And we've had guys, a guy from Uganda stayed with us. We have this Jinu, who's the Chinese guy, he's going to stay with us a couple of months. We got a guy from Israel that's going to stay with us too for a few days until he can find an apartment. But that's some of the things we do. I have people from the local PCA church there that help me do this ministry. And they're great folks. They're great folks. Also, what we do is we seek to not only welcome people, but we also explore. We explore the Bible with them. We welcome people and we explore the Bible with people. And what that means is that every week during the semester we have a meal for the international students, and we have a Bible study. We call it our dinner discussion, what we call it at Penn State International Cafe. And they come out, and we have tables in a room about this size. We had this past year about 60 come out. This is the first year we've had this. About 60 come out to it, and we explore the Bible with them. We do inductive Bible study with them. And one of the great things is that you make good friends doing this, and they also make friends with one another. You know, just to see how we grow in this kind of Bible study. Last August, we had 2 people come to our Bible study that were in the symphony orchestra. One was a guy from Mexico. He plays double bass. Another guy is from a guy from Brazil. He plays the viola. Well, the next week they came. They brought the girl who lived with us, Alma is her name, to the Bible study, and she came, and she's from Kazakhstan. Well, the next week those 3 brought 3 more, and they brought a guy from Israel who was a conductor, a guy from Honduras who's a cellist, and a girl from Croatia that's a cellist. And the next week, those 6 brought another friend, and a girl that's a conductor from Argentina. And so this Bible study, by the end of the year, we had 19 different nationalities coming to it, and also some Muslims coming to it. We have a number of Iranian friends, and it's amazing how open. In fact, if you could ask me right now, the most open Muslim on our campus is an Iranian, by far. They're friendly, they're outgoing. They, in fact, a girl, I have an intern coming in the fall at some point, and she and another intern for the other RUF group that's there, they're going to room together, and they were having trouble finding an apartment because this place, if you don't sign an apartment lease by February for the next year, you'll be out of luck. That's how many people come to this. You know, we 47,000 students in a small town. Okay, and so this girl from Iran put this thing on Facebook and said, "Listen, I have an apartment that I own." She has a condo, and she said, "I want to lease it out." And I answered, and I said, "Well, hey, I have some interns coming. Would you be willing to listen out to them?" And they said, "Oh, Richard, we'll do anything for you." And so they have an apartment now. And so they're very open, the Iranians are. Very open. And we also try to help the students really apply what God's Word says. I have a friend of mine, his name is Sid. His name really is Sidra. He's from India. Sid, at one time when in India, was in charge of all the safety for all the Indian coal mines in the whole country. And you see, that's something to also tell you. What we get here, guys, is not their bottom 1% and 2%. We get their top 1% and 2% coming here. And so these are the guys, when they go home, they're going to be in charge of stuff. So Sid had graduated in May. He was looking for a job. He's allowed to work for a year, and then he was going to go. He would get some experience in the area that he didn't have experience in. Then go home and start working again for Indian Coal. And he called me up, and he was really disturbed. And he said, "Let's have lunch." And so we had lunch. And he said, "Listen, Richard, I found this perfect job for me for the next year. It's perfect. And he said, I didn't get it. First time in his life he's ever failed. And he looked at me and he said, how do you handle failure? And what God does is God sets things up for me. I just walk on campus a lot of times. But this is what happened to me the day before I had lunch with Sid. I had this list of to do things like everybody does. You make this do list, and you're going to go out and try to do these things in one day. And so I went out, and the first thing that happened to me that morning is I could not find a parking space on campus, which happens all the time. And then everywhere I went, either the people didn't want to help me, or they weren't there, or they were closed, or whatever, and I just got so frustrated. So about 2 o'clock, I decided that I was going to go drown my sorrows in Greece and go to Five Guys. And which at my age I shouldn't be doing. So I went to Five Guys, and which I had not planned to do that day. And so I walked in and I looked behind the counter, and there was a girl from Chile that we had lost her information, and she and her husband had wanted to get together with my wife and I. And so I walked up to her, and we're sitting there talking, and she gave me her information. I ate, and as I was leaving, I went, oh, that's why today's been the way it is. So God had me an appointment that I didn't know I had. And so I told Sid, I said, Sid, God keeps us away from things that maybe we're not ready for, or maybe He has something a whole lot better for you. And he looked at me and he said, is it that simple? I said, Sid, it's that simple. You see, Sid's been coming to church every Sunday. He doesn't believe in Jesus yet. Well, he does believe in Jesus, but he doesn't believe in our type of Jesus. All right? And we were concerned because he was going to leave. And the next week he called me up and said, Richard, guess what? Penn State hired me. He said, not only that, they're going to give me a chance to get my PhD. 5 years we got him. 5 years. Yeah, you don't make stuff like that up. I mean, God does those kind of things. And now Sid doesn't know that God has done all this.
He will.
But one day he's going to.
He will.
Because he's going to come to Christ. So those are some of the things we do. We welcome them, we equip them, and also help them apply the scriptures. We also, one of the things we do, we explore, and then we equip. We equip people in order for them to go home. One of the things that we found is as people go home, they have trouble finding churches because they don't know what a good church is often. Especially if they're here for a master's, you don't have them but 2 years. It's hard to get them to go into church consistently. Sometimes they become a Christian their last semester here. And so it's difficult when they go home, especially the Chinese. They have a hard time finding churches. Mainly because you just don't walk around and there's not a church edition of the newspaper or anything like that there. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is to train them in basic Christian doctrine in order for them to go home and be able to choose a good church, to find a good church. Because one of the things that we found is that they go home, they get discouraged, and they want to give up. And so one of the things that we try to do is to do that. I'll be teaching a course this semester on the Apostles' Creed, so to give them some basic Christian doctrine for them to be able to take home with them. In fact, most of the people I'll be teaching will be here another 2 years. So we'll probably be doing an ongoing teaching class on equipping them to be able to go home and to find a church, to find a group of believers in China that's maybe in a house church or wherever they go, to be able for them to be able to grow in Christ in their own culture. So, but you know, this has been a wonderful adventure for us, my wife and I. Now, I tell you, there are times when I thought, what am I doing up here? Back in January, it snowed 12 inches, and I was out at 5 a.m. shoveling snow. And every now and then I'd stop and I'd think, did I think that at 58 years old I would be in Pennsylvania shoveling snow? No. But God did. So, I have about 8 minutes left, so I wanted to leave some time for you to ask any questions. So, any questions from anybody?
Well,
Yes.
I was wondering, do they all speak English?
Yes, they have to. When they come over, they have to take a test called the TOEFL test, and if they don't pass it, they don't get into school.
Oh.
And so now the TOEFL test is a written test. It is not conversational English. And so they get here, and often our idioms drive them absolutely nuts. And so one of the things that I do to meet people sometimes is we'll meet somebody and they'll say, oh, I'm looking for a place to learn some English. I said, why don't you meet with me for a while? I'll speak you good Southern English. And, there are Chinese people saying y'all now, by the way. You know, that's one. In fact, when I worked, this is a sidebar to that. When I went up there were some people at the church up there that were concerned that the internationals would not be able to understand me. And so I was out with 4 Chinese PhD students. We were eating at Cracker Barrel, as a matter of fact, and which they love Cracker Barrel. But we were there eating one night, and I asked him, I said, do y'all understand me? He said, oh yeah, we understand you fine. He said, you speak so slowly. He said, these other people around here we can't understand. So all right. Any other questions?
Ricky might tell them about everybody's got a phone too. Because you know, you sent 2 of them to our house.
Oh yes.
They all got phones, and I mean big ones. They not look.
Yeah, they internationals are. That's how they do things. In fact, I don't ever call an international. I text them because it's hard for me to understand. You get that the accent gets on the cell phone. It's hard, and so what and texting is fine. In fact, I've been going down the highway. Lynn is driving. And I've been, and I'll be texting 4 or 5 different national internationals at a time in some text string. So, and they're glad to be here. And let me also say one thing too. I got 6 minutes. That a lot of people think, well, what are these internationals coming here and taking these positions away from our children? All right, an international when he comes to the United States often has to pay his all 4 years ahead of time in cash.
Wow.
Out of state tuition, out of country tuition. So Penn State many years ago understood this, and so they have welcomed internationals because they're a huge cash cow. Okay? Northwestern University discovered it about 5 years ago. And their international population has grown 420%.
Wow.
Now they're just ready to pass Penn State in numbers of students in the last few years. Also, when they do research here and they discover stuff, guess where it stays? Here.
Good.
So we have a friend of ours who is Iranian. He invented a little microchip about this big that what you do, you put it on a plant and then get your iPhone out, and you can tell by using an app on your iPhone how much moisture is in that plant.
Wow.
And so what you can do, so farmers in the near future are going to be able to take these little chips and put on each plant, on one plant on each row, and if they want to know when to irrigate, all they have to do is call up on their phone. And they'll know exactly how much moisture is in that plant. Okay? His wife, his wife was a good friend of mine, of Lynn's, and we became good friends when he had some difficulties. And so he is now in St. Louis. Monsanto has bought him, basically, and he's staying here, and we're going to be the recipients of that research, and things. So that's some of the things that happens. All right? Yes.
How do you like the creamery at Penn State?
Oh yes. Did you go to Penn State? Been there? Okay. All right.
No way.
The creamery. Well, there's an argument in town right now. The creamery at Penn State. This is where it's the University of Ice Cream. Is what it comes down to. Now, Penn State is basically an engineering school. They have the highest number of engineers in the world as alumni. They have the biggest alumni association in the world too. And one of the reasons a lot of these internationals are coming here is because their professors in undergrad went to Penn State, and so they send them here. So, but we have a creamery, and the creamery is something that's been in operation since about the 1880s, I think. And they develop ice cream. That's what they do. Everybody that goes to, everybody who works for all the ice cream companies in the world that goes to school, they go to Penn State to get their ice cream degree. No joke. Ben and Jerry's, you name them. That's where they've been. And so it's an amazing place. The ice cream is great. There's another place in town called Myers Dairy that they actually had a ice cream off in the newspaper, and Myers Dairy beat the creamery. And there was much consternation about that among the Penn State alums. So, but we go about once a month. That's all I can afford. Yeah, both the money and here. All right. Yes.
I was wondering how they process them to make sure they're not coming into the country with ulterior motives.
Right.
Well, that's up to they have to get a visa through the State Department, and the State Department does all that. They can't come in the country until they get a student visa. And I would say this, you never know who's coming in the country. The president of China's daughter has been in the United States for 4 years, and nobody knew it. She was at Princeton. The only time they ever knew it was that when her mother showed up for graduation. Now, somebody at Princeton knew about it. The State Department, of course, knew about it. But she was under an assumed name. So I tell people, I never know who I talk to, what kind of influence they're going to have. Right now, the second guy who's in charge of the State Department of China, I can't tell you his name, but he became a Christian through RUF at Georgia Tech. So these people, they go home. In fact, 70% of them do go home. Some of the Indians stay. Most of them go home because their government's paying their dime, and so they have to go home. So, but hey, thank you for your time. Yes.
One thing, tell them how you started your first day there. How you got when you were having lunch.
Oh, okay. All right.
I thought that was
Okay. Okay. I'll tell it very quickly.
You got time. Go ahead.
Go
ahead.
Okay. All right, okay. The first thing I had to decide was this: when I walked on campus, I knew no one, zero. And so, when am I going to become the big fat white guy stalker of international students? And so I had to figure out a way to meet them naturally. And the RUF, now, we don't do much with the American RUF that's there because they have a different demographic than we do. Most of our students in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're also professionals already and stuff. So, and they just don't fit in with the American freshmen. So he took me to a place in the hub. The hub is the student center. It's huge. And they have a downstairs with a food court, and there's a Burger King in the food court. And Joe took me down and said, listen, Right over here is an area that's about the size of where all your chairs are in the middle. And there are chairs and tables there. And they said, there's always internationals here. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll come and observe for a few days. So I'd go down around lunchtime and observe and see what's going on. So I came on the plan. So what I would do, I would go down at 11:50 and get some food and sit down at one of the tables in this section right there. And I would wait. And about 12:10, about 2,000 people appear, which about half are international students. Most of them live off campus. And so I'd sit there and I'd watch people coming out of the Burger King. And sure enough, after a while, all the tables around me get full. And I have a place. And so I watch, and the next international that comes out of there, and they come, this is what they come out, they got their food, they're going, they're looking around for somewhere to sit. And I go, come here, sit with me. My first semester, I met 60 internationals that way. Not a single one failed to give me their name, phone number, and email address. And I would say about a quarter of who we have come regularly to stuff, they came from that first time meeting that semester. And I've had other ministries come to me, how do you do this? And I had one guy come and watch me. I'd be sitting over there, and he said, he just sat down with you. How did he sit down with you? It's the idea of hospitality, and Americans don't tend to be, the South tends to be more hospitable than the North.
Amen.
But it's the idea of hospitality that is ingrained in a lot of these cultures, and they don't mind taking it. So the sitting with a stranger is no big deal. So okay. With that said, if you would like to keep up with what we're doing and hear some of these stories, we send a newsletter out, and I'm going to send out around a sheet that if y'all want to sign up for it, please do. We'll send it to you and everything, and you'll hear about, we send it about 7 times a year. If you want to email, we do email more often. So a lot of times we send out prayer requests and stuff, so let me send this around. And thank you for inviting me to this day, and I really appreciate it, guys. Really do.
Thank you. Toby called me this morning at 6:30. She didn't feel good. So y'all stuck with me for Bible this morning, for prayer.
Ask Richard
But
how we
do
can pray for him.
Yeah, pray for Toby.
Yeah. How can we pray for Richard and his ministry?
Yeah.
Yes.
Pray for Richard. And
Okay.
she's got a kidney infection, but she's already been on antibiotic, and she thought she was better, but she went back on it again. So pray for me. And when you're grieving, it seems like it takes a long time. Things are going, everybody's around you right at first, and all of a sudden you're on your own. And sometimes weird things start happening to you. So y'all just keep Toby in your mind. I know she's hurting right now, and Smith. And talking about international students, Richard, Pat Courtney always came to our class and had us to cook the first meal of the first year for the international students here. Well, she lost her husband last night. He had gone into hospice Friday, and he died last night about 5 o'clock, Bobby said. So keep Pat and Courtney, the 3, Jason and David and Jonathan in your prayers. And others. Keep praying for Dan, Madge's brother. Didn't he have some of the appliance taken off his mouth this week?
He had some of the wires taken off Friday, and he goes back in 2 weeks, and they're going to x-ray and see what they can do then.
So keep Dan in your prayers that they'll be able to take those wires out of his mouth, because he's lost so much weight and everything. And Jen, we're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you.
Glad your foot's healing. Is it going to come off this week?
Yes, hopefully Thursday, after 6 weeks and 2 days, I'll be able to put my weight on it.
Good.
I just wanted to tell you, I started off with a walker, that's what insurance paid for. And for somebody in their 80s to hop on one foot,
That's right.
got to me after a few days. So I had John get me a knee scooter, so we did. And then that started bothering my knee, so I said, Mike Covington brought me some crutches, thank goodness, but I was kind of scared to use them at first because I thought if I fall, what am I going to do here? But John got a wheelchair for me, and that was great. I wish I'd gotten it from the beginning. So I have all 4 things. If you can think of anything else, I can do that.
And I've got crutches and a boot.
So the crutches are
Try
good.
to get it piggyback.
Yeah.
I hope nobody needs them. That's one thing I hope nobody needs.
But let me tell you, if any of your husbands are not familiar with the kitchen and cooking, please train them because John. I didn't mean that John wasn't. John has been great because he was not a stranger in the kitchen. So he's been wonderful fixing the meals. And so I just thank you. Thank
We
you for your
appreciate you,
prayers.
John.
And my prayers that when I go Thursday, he will say that,
Her day's coming,
Oh, yeah. He tells me
Well,
my
hand a
day's coming
spatula
to
back
meet on
to
him.
her.
I said, well, I'm not going to cut your meat for you. But anyway, he has been wonderful. So just prayer that Thursday will go well.
Sylvia, how you doing?
I'm okay.
Your medicine working?
For the hives, yes, I get shots each month for the hives.
Well, good. You're looking awful pretty.
Thank you.
So we'll just keep you in our prayers this time.
Always beautiful.
Anybody else?
Continue to pray for Ed.
Yeah, Ed, I had him.
Judy
Is he
is going
still in
down
the VA
today.
hospital?
He is in the VA hospital. The prayer is that he'll be able to be strong enough to get up and walk. You know, he's been laying in the bed flat for too long, really. And they're hoping that today they can get him up in a chair so that he'll be halfway up and before long he can walk. Because he will not be able to come home till he walks, of course.
Well, did the colonoscopy show anything?
That was a misquote. It was an endostomy.
Oh, okay.
And I wondered about that, but I didn't question it. But it was an endostomy. And she said that he looks better and his color is better. But just
Gotta
pray
get his
for
strength
strength that maybe he can walk and come home.
Okay.
Because it's hard on Judy going down there every day.
Who's
Sometimes
taking
driving.
Judy?
Huh?
Who's taking Judy?
Well, sometimes she goes alone and sometimes she goes with someone.
She's right.
Sometimes. So
We need
pray
to pray
for her
for Judy and
safety.
Ed big time then.
Yeah.
Because Ed always looked after Judy, so it's just kind of hard. Martha, when is your surgery?
The 15th of August.
The 15th? Okay. We'll keep you and Lambert in our prayers. Hope this time they're able to do it
I do too.
and everything.
Well, it's not that I don't have faith, that's the same doctor. And I told him, be sure that anesthesiologist is standing by my face so that they don't have to quit again.
Okay. Do you?
I want y'all to remember the family of Amy Rector. She's a young 40s, early 40s that was passed away in her sleep the other night. I've known her since she was little. She's my son's age, and I've known her family for a long time. They're going to do an autopsy. Don't know any details, but she didn't show up at lunch with a friend, and then the friend couldn't get her on the phone, went to her apartment, couldn't get her to the door, and it took a while to get in because they won't let you in. And they finally got, her brother came, and they went in and found her in her bed, and she had died during the night.
42 years old.
She's a school teacher in Indian Land, so she was out for the summer.
Alice? Anna Rector.
Amy Rector.
Is it R-E-C-T-O-R?
R-E-C-T-O-R. Her father's Wayne Rector and her mother's Linda Rector, if y'all know any of them.
Did you get it? Yeah, Amy Rector.
Amy Rector.
Yes, Max?
We probably need to pray for the wolves also. I'm sure they have some prayer requests.
Yeah.
Well, especially for the Solon people, they now have their Bibles in hand.
Okay.
And it was a really awesome time. I know one old fella ran over to me, grabbed up a copy, and he just started bawling.
Aww.
He said, I never thought I'd see the day when I have God's Word in my own language.
Well, you know, it's wonderful when you get a Bible in your own language. I mean, you know, where you can read it and all. It's hard. I don't see how anybody in a foreign country if they don't speak English, get a Bible, it doesn't mean anything to them. But when they get it in their own language, it's very special.
Well, we're going back in a couple of months to finish the Old Testament now, so
Okay.
be praying for us as we're working towards finishing the Old Testament.
Any others? Yes.
Sandy's making some improvements, just slight improvements with the sores in her mouth. And what she started doing, she's had her second B12 shot, and they think that's what's helping her. So, more mercy, she's had every kind of anything that you could ever expect that might work, but nothing has helped so far. But now she has had some improvement. So we're happy about that. But she's still
Keep
got
Sandy in your prayers.
a lot of things to go through, yeah. Still.
And Pat, how's your foot?
It's okay.
Okay.
They removed my toenail on my right foot Friday, and I'm just having to endure it.
Just be careful. Okay.
But I have a good nurse. Harold is a very good nurse.
We have some good husbands in here.
We were visiting with Carissa yesterday, Carissa Woods, our neighbor, and David is sick again. And he was doing better, was out working in the yard, on the house, all sorts of things. And now he's back to sleeping and sitting in his chair all day. And if he eats, he gets very nauseous and major cramping. So they went to the doctor. They did a CAT scan or TC scan, and there is a blockage somewhere in his small intestine. So they have several doctor appointments coming up this week, another scan and a dye test to find out exactly where the blockage is, how big it is, and then he will have to have minor surgery. He just got off all the opiates, the addiction he had from his previous surgery. So we're concerned about that, having to go back into surgery and maybe needing more pain meds. So just lift him up in prayer. And Carissa has issues that she needs to be dealing with, and now she's back to taking care of David. So.
Did you get that, Alice? David and Clarissa Woods.
What about Carissa? Did she say something about Carissa?
David Woods. The friends we've been praying for, you had cancer.
What's going on with Carissa?
Her legs, isn't it? Her legs.
Yeah, her leg and other issues that she's not dealt with because of David's issues, and she was just starting to do that. So I forgot to ask her, okay, what does that mean? Are you not going to be able to follow through on your issues? So, yeah.
Yes, they're hard. They're going to take that growth on my son's leg Tuesday. And just pray. I think it's nothing, but you never know. And he did end up in the emergency room day this week in a lot of pain. And they found out he had, I can't even pronounce, something in both his back. And so they gave him a shot and put him on some kind of mild pain medicine for now. And but I think really and truly once you've had cancer, and especially stage 4, everything that comes along, he's scared it's come back.
Sure.
And I keep telling him just, the Lord's looking after him. We've had him this long. We're thrilled to death that we have. But just, I keep telling him to buck up. But he's not one for pain anyway. And, but after his wife called me, it was like, ha, 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 there was something wrong. But I just was trying to encourage him to, persevere. And but they did give him a shot, and they got the pain relieved and everything. So are they going to do the surgery in the office? So I feel like it's not going to be that big a deal getting that little growth off his leg. So just keep he and Joni in prayers and all.
How about Ernest? Ernest?
Who?
Ridgway.
I didn't hear him.
Ernest Ridgway.
Oh,
Ernest.
they found out. Did y'all get online that when he eats, food goes in his lungs? So they're having to
slowly.
and so they're having to find out how to get that straightened out. But he was coming last Sunday, and Ann said by the time he got his bath and shaved, he was just too tired to come. And he said, Ann, I hate that. And he said, I miss Sunday school, I miss everybody, but he said, I'm just worn out. So I think they watch it, you know, the preaching on TV. And but do keep, I'm glad you mentioned that. And of course, Fran and them aren't here, Duncan is not here, and you know, she still got that cast on her arm. So keep her in your prayers too. All right, let's pray, please. Heavenly Father, we just have a long list with the day, and we just want to bring each person to you. Thank you for Richard being here this morning and the job he's doing with these internationals. Heavenly Father, your word needs to go in other countries, and what better way to do it except through the international students. A lot of them go back and they're in the government, and once they hear the word and accept you, they will handle things a lot different because they know they're under your rule. And we just appreciate all this hard work and all the RUF ministers we have at all the different campuses. I think it would be very hard witnessing to the internationals, but just show our Southern hospitality and all the different ones. Heavenly Father, we'd just like to bring everybody to you, be with them this week, be with Courtney, family, be with Pat. It's been a long struggle with Dale, and he was a trooper through it all, but just be with that family, put your loving arms around them. Be with Toby this morning. Let her know that we missed her, and she's such a godly prayer warrior, dear Heavenly Father. I don't know what we'd do without her. Thank you for this day. For Christ's sake I pray. Amen.